Board of Franklin County Commission back in session. Next on the agenda will be Ms. Marsha Johnson.
Mr. Chair, I don't have a report this morning.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Next on the agenda will be Mr. Allen Pierce.
My report was a little bit late to get into you all, and I have one more I have to add this morning. But let's go through what we have here. All right, so board action authorized send me to Triumph Board meeting on December 7th in Phoenix Springs. Triumph Board will be discussing items of interest. Specifically, they're going to talk about the process they're going to create for ad valorem tax reimbursement. So I want to be there to listen to all that.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Masters, second by Commissioner Jones.
Just a discussion now.
Yes, sir.
The gentleman who was with us the last meeting, it sounded like he had some money to help mitigate potential increase in taxation.
Yes.
Do you understand if that is money that can be applied for with the applications are more relaxed? The money is more relaxed to get it than other categories of their money.
Yes, because and I think you might have said this, but if you didn't, I'm pretty sure Commissioner Parris and I asked him separately. So this is the deal. The Triumph Board has $300 million. It's an allocation of money coming through through state legislature, which allocated that $300 million, 5% dedicated to each county in the impacted area. So there's $15 million dedicated to projects in Franklin County. So what he basically was saying was, if you all want to use some of that $15 million for tax abatement, it's available to you. There's another pot of money. So if you do the math really quickly, there were 8 impacted counties. Each one of us is dedicated 5%. So there's $120 million that's set aside for the individual counties. Then there's another $180 million that's competitive. It's possible that we can compete, not for tax purposes, because we'll never win that battle, because Bay County and other counties will win that battle, because we're not big enough. But the $180 million set aside for competitive programs that are going to create jobs in the 8 counties. It's possible that we'll have a project that can be competitive in that. We'll just have to wait and see. Our problem is we don't have the population base, and we don't create the numbers of employment that Bay County or Santa Rosa County or Escambia County. I mean, when they create a job, it's 500 jobs. When we create a job, we're happy if it's 5 jobs. So on the scale of things, it's really hard for us to compete for that $180 million. But we have a dedicated $15 million for projects in Franklin County. And so when we create our list of projects, it's going to be basically focused on getting the money that's already been dedicated to us. The school board has got about $2.5 million. The city of Apalachicola has made a request for about $1 million, but I don't know if that's going to be fulfilled because of the damage they sustained. So if I take the $2.5 million out, the school board's been obligated. There's about $12.5 million left for projects in Franklin County, and so that's what we're looking at. Okay. All right. And I hope to get a list of you all, I'll be honest with you, and get something to Triumph by in January 2019. I hope we move on this pretty quickly. Okay, the second item is something the board asked. I'm sorry. Oh, for me to go. I'm sorry.
The motion was
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you. The second item is something the board asked the board to negotiate, a committee to negotiate, and I sort of took the lead on that. So what you have in your packet is a draft contract for administrative services between the County Commission and the Apalachicola Bay Chamber of Commerce for TDC administrative services. And I'll just read what I wrote here. So I've attached a contract guide for your approval. I use the existing TDC administrator contract as the guide for the new contract. And upon board approval, I'll submit this contract to Ms. Donna Duncan, Chamber President, for signature. The county attorney has not reviewed this draft contract because he wanted to stay out of the creation of this. I have gone over this with chamber members, representatives, and I believe that it's consistent with what they will accept. So this has been reviewed by them.
Page of the board.
I can go through the items if you want me to, Mr. Chairman, or not. That's up to you all. I was going to read what the changes if you want me to.
Go ahead.
All the dues included in the previous TDC contract have been carried forward, with the exception of one item related to the BP oil spill. That program has been completed, so I broadened the item to say that TDC director will maintain association with other state and regional tourist development agencies, such as Visit Florida, because we want to make sure we stay in the mix with everybody else. A cap on administrative costs consistent with the county finance office's budget, which is $112,000. So that's what's in the budget, and so I just put that number into this contract. But because this contract is being entered into partway in this fiscal year, your existing TDC director has already got part of that money. So for this fiscal year, The amount of money available for administrative service is $84,000. That's been budgeted, chamber knows it, everybody knows it, so we're operating off $84,000 for the next 9 months of this fiscal year. I kept the same billable rate for the TDC director at $42 an hour as the billable rate, but I added a rate for other personnel at $21 an hour because clearly support staff is going to get paid differently. So, and the chamber was happy with that, or satisfied with that. This contract period will be for 2 years. So it would start in January 2019 and January 1st, 2021. I did this because of my understanding that the ad for the TDC Administrative Service mentioned a 2-year contract, and as the board is aware, all the TDC vendors, including the director, are already on 2-year contracts. So I just made that consistent with all your other vendors. I did add last paragraph so that the county commission will be notified if the chamber changes executive director. As the board is aware, the chamber director is intended to become the TDC executive director as well. So I just want to make sure that if they change that, you all are notified about that. And if you're satisfied with this draft contract, then you can make a motion to approve it. And I say I've talked to chamber representatives, and I believe they're satisfied with it also.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Jones. Let me ask Michael a question. Mr. Shooter?
Yes, sir.
It's okay, I know you're not gonna be in it, but it's okay for us to do it without doing an outside counsel? Or you?
Yeah, if I heard Alan correct, they're using a prior contract that I've already reviewed and approved in the past for the prior administrator. So unless the board wants to make some additional changes, or the board just wants to get some input from outside counsel, which the board has the discretion to do. But if you don't feel that way, you can move forward. As I said, I have approved this contract for several years for your prior administrator. So it should not be any different than something you've approved in the past.
Okay, I'm fine with it myself. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
Okay, item number 3, inform the board that the Corps has sent a draft MOA, stands for Memorandum of Agreement, to be used for the purpose of connecting the county's consortium funds for dredging the East Point Channel and the 2 Mile Channel with the Corps funds. I am in discussion with the consortium staff on how they think this can occur. I've also advised the Corps to use their contact on the Gulf Council to help develop this process, as consortium funds ultimately come from the Gulf Council. So I'm trying to solve this problem from both ends. I was on a conference call yesterday, or webinar yesterday, with consortium staff, and I brought that up again, and we're going to try and work this out. The consortium has come up with a timeline for the initial application of funds, and that is January 2019, January 31st, 2019. We potentially could be applying for our first round of funds. They hope that first round of funds, and you may have heard some of this down at the meeting, is for projects that need pre-design and feasibility studies. Well, our channels don't need pre-design nor feasibility studies. We know we're going to do them. So I tell you that don't be alarmed if we don't do an application in January, because they're looking for those projects that are just getting off the ground. We're already off the ground. It may be that when I get further guidance from the consortium staff that we apply in February, because what they're trying to do, they're trying to help the Gulf Council understand our process. So they are trying to get all the projects that basically need feasibility studies in first, get them out of the way, and then next set will be design studies. And of course, we are in the design phase, so we might come in on the second tier, not because we're late, but because we don't need feasibility study funding. So, but I'll work that out. The Corps of Engineers is coming over tomorrow, not to meet with us, Commissioner Jones, but to come over and look at the East Point Channel again. They're doing some final evaluations post Hurricane Michael. So we don't have the final numbers from them either. And clearly they are driving the bus as far as the timeline, because it's the majority of their money. But we are working to try and get those 2 funding sources tied together, and that's the goal that I think is the best path to follow.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Alan, I just want to make sure I understand what I'm reading in this sentence. So I know we'd had a discussion about that the Corps had said they had money to try to do something. So we're trying to leverage consortium dollars to go ahead and get the Corps to do it. Then when we pay it back from the consortium, the Corps can then use those same monies toward the 2 Mile Channel. Is that what this sentence is saying?
No, we have money set aside in consortium for both channels.
Okay.
The first one will be East Point, because the permit's already obtained, and they've already doing the design phase.
Okay.
And they have $2 million of congressional money. So what we would be doing, they think the project cost, as we initially requested, is a $3 million project now.
Right.
So we are looking at our consortium money to match with the Corps money to get that channel dredged.
Okay.
Then we'll go to 2 Mile, but
Okay.
there won't be any reimbursement.
Okay, I was just the way the sentence was
Okay.
worded, I was trying to make sure I understood. Okay.
Because the Corps money is going to be used up in that channel dredging, and then they'll get some more money for 2 Mile.
I wasn't trying to make it be either way, I just want to make sure I understood what you were saying.
Did they say how long it'll be before they get the 2 mile paperwork at all straightened up?
No, I'll be honest, because they have the permit for the East Point Channel, that's the first priority, and Hurricane Michael has screwed up their schedule, so I don't quite know when that'll be, but they are working, they know to work on it. But hopefully in the next 8 months, or I shouldn't say, I really don't know.
Okay, but keep on them about that, cause them fishermen, they use it. And
Yes, sir.
They having them.
It'll be more important, when Lombardi finally opens, then there's really gonna be the heat on us, because
Right.
that's right in there.
Yeah.
As soon as they were coming over, say tomorrow, to look at the channel, and I hope to hear a phone call from them at least. Okay, that's item number 3. Item number 4, board action to contact the ARPC to see if they will assist the county in applying for consortium funds. Even though Franklin County might be a pass-through for consortium funds to go to the Corps, the consortium still has an application process with its own complications because of requirements imposed by the U.S. Treasury. Gulf County has already signed a contract with the ARPC, and Wakulla County has expressed a similar interest. And I've talked to Mr. Chris Rito, ARPC Executive Director, and he would like to provide the service to all 3 counties. So if you'd like to see if the ARPC would want to do this for us, I would recommend a motion to have staff contact the ARPC officially and see if they want to provide this service to us.
So they would basically be our consultant?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
The way I understood it from talking with Chris about this, Mr. Rito, it stands in the way that they've got everything worded with what can be done with Pot 1 and Pot 3 monies. You can't use the same consultant for both pots. So they're trying to, you know what I mean?
Well, we haven't even thought about using it. Pot 1 money is the Restore Council money that the U.S. Treasury is holding our benefit. Pot 3 is the consortium money, and so we've only thought about using the ARPC for Pot 3.
Right.
So it'd be okay.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimous.
Item number 5 we've already hit upon, but let me go ahead and just read it for the record. Inform the board the state hazard mitigation staff is encouraging the county to expedite the Alligator Point land acquisition process. To that end, Mark Harrington has contacted a real estate appraisal company the county has used in the past to see if the county can get some sort of bulk rate fee, because ultimately the county might need appraisals on 99 parcels if enough funds are available. The acquisition process only requires 1 appraisal. We're in the very early stages, I say we, the office, the very early stages of all this, but we will keep Mr. Schuer involved to the extent he believes it's necessary. So we'll defer you to when you want to know what we're doing.
Every time, all the time.
Good thing.
So there's that. We've talked about, I'll be on Alligator Point tomorrow morning with some FEMA staff trying to get a handle on what they're going to offer us. Part of the problem is, commissioners, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, is that Alligator Point, where the road sits now, is in total control of DEP, and the state of Florida has waived no part of the process of getting a permit. Nothing. They haven't given us any guidance. They haven't given us any allowances for what we're suffering, for what we're dealing. We're dealing with an emergency evacuation route, and yet we're having to go through the process as if we're building a house, and time is not of the essence. Time is of the essence, but we have gotten no relief. So the state of Florida, DEM, says, well, if you can't, we can't help you with that. That's state regulation, but we'll help you move the road. Well, yeah, and that's its own process. So we're going to go down there tomorrow and see what else, where are we at. But I will tell you all, we're sort of on 2 tracks, and both have an endpoint of a permanent road, but they're 2 different paths. One is to relocate the road landward, where we don't have to worry with DEP anymore. We get out of the water, we don't have to fill in the Gulf of Mexico, we don't necessarily even have to build a sheet pile. We move the road 100 feet inland, and we put the road slam bam, we're up on high ground. But we have to get everybody to participate in that, and we have to buy all the lots, not just 9 out of 10, we got to buy all the lots. Or we continue to work, plugging our way through the regulatory process with DEP to get a permit to build sheet pile in the water, fill in the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, it's a battle, because the state of Florida already has a policy statewide that says you basically can't reclaim the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, they are very difficult on allowing encroachments, not only for private property, but for the county itself. And Clay is back here, but he's been involved in more of the conversations. It has just been a nightmare trying to get any leeway from the regulatory people about where that road's going to go. They're pushing us landward and they're squeezing us without giving us any exceptions. And the problem we're running into now is we have to treat stormwater that runs on the road. Well, they're not even giving us a full right of way to work on the stormwater, so I don't know where the stormwater's going to go. I mean, isn't that one? That's one. Yeah. So we're being squeezed by one regulatory agency and not getting any help. And the people now at a point are getting mad at us. But I'm saying it's the state of Florida who says you have to follow all these rules, even though it's an evacuation route. And maybe there'll be a breakthrough at some point.
Well, why it be an evacuation route? Why they won't fix? What the state won't do?
That's a very good question.
I mean, they fix they make evaluation routes everywhere.
All I can tell you is that we've had no relief from any of the rules.
I know.
And maybe with the new administration, maybe there'll be some exceptions, maybe lobbying efforts will pay off. I mean, it's too early to say, but I don't want to, we have to keep moving forward, in my opinion. I mean, I'll defer to you all.
I know we got to move on.
So we're moving on 2 tracks, and maybe there'll be a breakthrough, and one of the tracks will get ahead.
The only track that's gonna work is moving it in.
Yeah,
I personally believe that's the track that's
You're
going
gonna
to
have to
work.
move the road in.
that'll agree.
You can't continue down there to the Gulf of Mexico. We're gonna have to move the road up on top of the hill.
Right, right,
To make it, accessible to all the residents down there. I mean, that's the only way it's gonna work.
right.
They need to do both of them, Alligator Point and 98.
Well,
They need to move both of them in.
I agree, but fortunately, we don't have to pay for 98, we don't have to pay for Alligator Point. But anyway, that's where we're at, but I agree there are 2 tracks, and I think the logical track is that moving the road inland, but that requires everybody to participate down there, and we haven't got that yet.
Every time we have a major storm, both of them roads get blowed up. Yeah, don't make sense.
And I have one item from my report. I do need, this is associated with Gulf Shore Boulevard. Gulf Shore Boulevard, we have a contractor you all hired, Piga Construction. They had a timeline of November 22nd to finish the road, but then the hurricane came in. So the staff and I recommend that we give, through a change order, a 30-day time extension to have them finish the road by December 22nd. This is the little road that comes in off the State Park. Commissioner Bolt, so the Gulf Shore Boulevard, I'm calling it the relocation of Gulf Shore Boulevard. It's really a new road, but you've seen it. It accesses those 7 lots up there.
Oh, sure, that's Allen Road.
Well, I'm not calling it that.
Okay.
I'm calling it the relocation of Gulf Shore Boulevard.
So you need a motion for a 30-day extension?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Pass unanimous.
And that's the end of my report, but I will assist on the public hearing for the 5-year capital improvement plan.
Alan, what time will you be at Alligator Point with that meeting in the morning?
We're supposed to be down there at 10 o'clock. And you're welcome to participate for however long you can.
Are you going to be at the eastern end of the
We're going to meet at the eastern end.
eastern end, right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, keep up the good work.
Well, it'll be good work when something gets done, finally.
Yeah, it's coming. It's gonna take a little time. Next on the agenda, Mr. Michael Maroon,
That'd be me. Good morning,
County
Commissioners.
Coordinator.
Item 1, Fire Department Radio Communication Update. On Tuesday, November 27th, Williams Communication technicians began assessing the site equipment and lines. It was verified that the current radios and other equipment were not working, therefore not able to connect to the Zetron console of the Sheriff's Department dispatch. That's that main new console we just paid for that I'm referring to. Williams technician brought temporary loaner radios, which are really base stations, in an attempt to get the system online as soon as possible until the newer equipment could be ordered and installed, but was unable to accomplish that task as the needed DC termination panels were also damaged. That's a term, that would be the panels that connect the base stations to the console. Those damaged panels will be replaced by tone distribution panels, which should have arrived yesterday, and once installed, will allow the technicians to connect the loaner temporary radios and get the communication system back online. So, if all is well, they should have radio communications by this afternoon or tomorrow morning, the latest, if everything else goes well. B, on Wednesday, the tower crew conducted a visual site inspection of the communication tower in hopes of doing an assessment. It was determined that the tower was unstable and twisted at the top, and there were grounding and exposed electrical wiring issues. There are also numerous antennas and coaxial wiring issues that had to be traced and identified. Some of those issues have been rectified, so they were able to do the assessment, and we are awaiting that report. C, the FCC application has been completed. However, due to new FCC guidelines, a justification letter is now required. Williams Communication is working on that letter. And the Williams Communications technicians have contacted the St. George Island Fire Chief, who was in the process of setting up a meeting with Williams Communications, Mobile Communications, which is their provider, and the St. George Island Fire Chief to determine the best course of action for St. George Island Fire Department once the system is back online. The technicians have also been in contact with the Alligator Point Fire Chief. So all this kind of summarizes a couple things. As many people that stood up at the podium at the last meeting and said everything was a simple fix, obviously it's not. And in addition, I'll say this. Once the system is back in line and the radios are working, henceforth, all communications from fire chief, inquiries into the system, whatever's going on, will need to come through either Ms. Renee Brannon, the sheriff, or myself, simply because the county is paying for the maintenance contract. Some of the fire chiefs have a habit of calling Williams Communication after hours. You call them after hours, that sparks a 3-hour minimum, $100 and something per hour bill that the county would be on the hook for because they wanted an update. So they need to kind of coordinate the update and do it through us. We have better control as to when Williams is communicated and for what.
So you're sending out a memo that they're
I will.
to contact you?
Yes, once it's all up and running, everybody, all the radios have been checked out, I'm gonna send a memo, say henceforth, this is a procedure. If you think you have a problem with the system, these is who you contact, here are the numbers, et cetera, et cetera.
And if they call, let it come out of their budget.
Well, I don't tell Williams not to respond to their calls, to be
Oh,
very,
okay.
I don't mean to sound like that, but, you know.
Mr. Chairman, and some of that too, Michael, is just, for good, bad, or indifferent, we had systems that really weren't maintained for a long period of time. So I mean, you know, I'm just glad to see we're close.
The
to
80s and the 90s, sir.
I'm just
Yes,
glad to
sir.
see we're close to the end of it and everything
Yes.
will be working properly.
We're getting there. Like I said, if
I'm surprised they could even commingle together. I mean,
Yeah.
they did. You got to upgrade with time, man. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Okay, if no other questions on that, item number 2, inform the board that the permit fee waiver deadline was extended from November 30th to December 31st. Ms. Amy Ham Kelly, the county's floodplain administrator, and FEMA team did the assessment of damaged homes in the county, especially homes that will be affected by the state and federal flood assessment rules and guidelines. The assessment report from the FEMA team for each home is currently being uploaded into the substantial damage estimator database by Ms. Ham Kelly, which is a very time-consuming, tedious, and slow process. It is not any of the databases we've paid for. This is something that we use from FEMA. The information from this database allows Ms. Kelly to determine how many homes are severely damaged, destroyed, or suffered less than substantial damages. Another reason for the extension is to allow those homeowners that live outside the county the opportunity to survey their homes and hire contractors to do the repairs. Item number 3. Here we go. The county's permitting office is receiving complaints of non-permitted repairs on unlicensed contractors in the county. Between inspections, your building official has been patrolling areas greatly impacted by Hurricane Michael and has issued stop work orders when he finds non-permitted repair jobs or unlicensed contractor activity. He then follows up on these citations to verify that the permits were issued and or there are licensed contractors on these jobs. Unfortunately, he's unable to cover the entire county. Short of hiring additional inspectors, the county is asking for the public's assistance to help with this problem. If you see construction or repairs anywhere in the unincorporated areas of the county, which is outside the city of Apalachicola and the city of Caravelle, go to the county's website, which is franklincountyflorida.com. There's even a mobile version for your smartphone. Scroll down until you see quick links, then tap on the building permit link. That link takes you to a public portal where you can search the county's permitting database, either by address, property owner, etc., for permits that have been issued by the permitting office. With that information, you can then select Report a Concern link, which is also on the website right below it, which allows you to send an email to the permitting office, or you just call the office to report non-permitting repairs on licensed contractor activity. The billing official will then visit that location to investigate the matter further. Let me say this before I continue. Commissioner Jones asked me, well, is there any way we can do it up on the screen just to show the public? While I was sitting there, I have a better idea. How about we do it, and I asked Royce to create a YouTube video of what it is to get it done and put it on YouTube and with a link from our website, which will show everyone exactly what I just did. That goes across a little better?
Can you do that, Roy?
Yeah, Mike, on that issue,
Yes, sir.
the people that are, you gotta have somebody hiring these unlicensed contractors to do work. Now, if they hiring an unlicensed contractor to do work, then they're probably not covered with insurance or anything else.
sir.
So if that unlicensed contractor fails to perform, you have no recourse.
That's right.
So, as we're asking for the people in the county to report any unlicensed, well, the people that's hiring these people are no better than to hire somebody that's unlicensed, because they're not gonna be insurance reimbursable or anything else. So that needs to be put on our website,
Okay.
discouraging people from hiring unlicensed contractors. They're doing it in Bay County, Gulf County, everywhere else. You don't hire an unlicensed contractor. If people don't hire an unlicensed contractor, you've nipped that problem in the bud, because they're not hiring somebody that's not licensed. And if they hire somebody that's licensed and we know about it, then our building inspector's involved. If you hire somebody that's not licensed, then the building inspector's not involved.
Yeah.
So protection of the public, discourage hiring unlicensed contractors.
Yes.
And that needs to be put on the website, a PA announcement on the radio, whatever. Even an ad in the newspaper. I know you can't do it today, but you can put it in there next week.
Good idea.
Discouraging people from hiring unlicensed contractors. And that will nip that problem in the bud if we can get the public to participate and not hire these unlicensed contractors.
There's another issue when you hire a licensed contractor, and that in case if that contractor gets injured on your half on your property, then your homeowner's insurance may not cover that injury. And we've had, in my time here, we've had an individual hire an unlicensed contractor, a roofer. He falls off the roof, breaks his back, has tremendous medical expenses. He ends up suing the homeowner, and the homeowner's insurance doesn't cover it. But guess what? The homeowner's still stuck with that problem because he hired the company unlicensed.
So one of my,
Major risk.
is put this on the website, see if you can get Oyster Radio to run it, and put something in the paper, discouraging our residents from hiring an unlicensed contractor, and list some of these things as examples of why you don't do that. And you'll nip a lot of this in the bud.
Yes.
Now, having said that, a lot of your licensed contractors are tied up, but this is a risk I don't think the public needs to take as far as hiring these unlicensed contractors.
Yeah.
And it's not only happening here. It's everywhere. All these storm disasters is going through the same thing. All the people in there, I see it on TV. They was taking them down to Panama and putting them in jail.
Yeah, Bay was having a time with it.
Yeah,
Bay
I
County.
mean, they showed them taking the signs off the truck and putting them in the car.
You know, more importantly than, as important as all of this is too, you need only drive west on 98 and look at how homes survived along the water there in Carabel and Lanark Village, etc. And those are complying homes. They got to be compliant because the builders were licensed. Our building officials practiced the standard of practice of high code compliance, and it works. It works every time, even in one of the most devastating storms we had. And so we see our property values being sustained when we comply on these standards of practice, and that's why all this is also so important.
Continue.
Go ahead.
Okay, item number 4. Ms. Val Webb of Career Source Gulf Coast met with me last week to discuss the possibility of Career Source Gulf Coast providing temporary jobs to assist the county with necessary cleanup and restoration of the courthouse. Ms. Webb explained that this service would be provided at no cost to the county, as Career Source received funding to assist counties in their region with recovery that were impacted by Hurricane Michael. The jobs will be offered to eligible individuals that temporarily or permanently lost their jobs or cannot find work due to the disruption of business activities because of the disaster. Board action to approve and authorize the chairman's signature on the agreement, which has been reviewed by Attorney Schuler.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor by
Second.
Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Jones. Discussion. It's a good thing. They've done this before, and then it'll be good for putting people to work and, you know.
I'm trying to get 4 commissioners,
Who will be supervising these employees?
2 to work with Angie as, to help with the cleanup on the inside of the courthouse, and 2 to work with Shane on the outside of the courthouse.
Okay.
So they'll be supervising them.
Now, didn't they, the last time they had them working in the, like, park and rec, they gonna do that too?
I don't know, I have to contact Fonda and see if he needs them. I'm not sure if he's aware that this extra labor is available.
Yeah, they
I
put
will.
them in the park and rec the last time.
Okay, I'll let Fonda know.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just make sure I have Ms. Aaron check with our insurance carrier to make sure that those people are covered under our liability insurance.
Okay.
We're not providing workers' comp or anything else, but they are on our property under our supervision.
Okay, I will.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 5, as the board is aware, Amendment 1, which was on the November 6th ballot, would exempt a portion of assessed home values between $100,000 and $125,000 from property taxes other than school taxes, bringing the maximum homestead exemption up to $75,000. The amendment failed as it needed 60% supermajority vote to become law, but only received 58.06% of the votes needed on election day. The Florida Association of Counties opposed Amendment 1 in its entirety, as FAC considered this amendment as a tax shift, not a tax cut, and realized that the smaller fiscally constrained counties would have been hit the hardest. If you consider the unincorporated areas in the county, cities, independent special districts, and water management districts, Franklin County saved at least $251,667.41 with the defeat of Amendment 1. With that in mind, FAC spent upwards of $1 million in lobbying and advertising statewide against Amendment 1. At last week's conference, the FAC Board of Directors asked the counties to consider an assessment based on population that will replenish the funds spent on this campaign effort. Commissioner Jones, the FAC Board of Directors appointee, will discuss this matter further. Board action to pay the $576.23 assessment to FAC.
Yeah, basically, Commissioners, it's $576 is our portion or our share based on our population. At least we're not Broward or Miami-Dade. I think one of them had 184,000 was their share. But this is to put that $1 million back into a fund, so in coming elections, coming times, if there's anything that our association, FAC, wants to try to lobby against or advertise against, there's money there on go, ready to go. So that's really all it is.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Master. Any more discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Item number 6, Commissioners, inform the board that staff has received complaints regarding the condition of US Highway 98 between Apalachicola and the Lanark Village area prior to the rains, especially on the south side of the road. I've been informed that the projects to permanently repair the highway have been solicited. So, the selection and award process should be completed within the next couple of weeks, and then mobilization and repair activity should commence shortly after that. Some complaints I received, well, why didn't they patch it better or they use asphalt? I was informed by DOT that if they used asphalt to do a slight or temporary patch, FDOT would have said, that's your permanent patch, you're not getting anything else. So that's why they couldn't use any asphalt to do a better patch, I guess, if I can explain it that way. I guess it's always an explanation.
I've had a lot of complaints on that too.
Yes, sir.
Who gonna, is they saying this thing, who gonna help these people with their tearing up their cars,
No,
their
no,
front
sir.
end?
No, sir, they're not. I'll be glad to give them
We
800.
already at a disaster, they putting us more disaster.
Glad to give them an 800 number to FDOT though. Item number 7, remind the board that Mr. H.D. Cannington, your Weems CEO, will be at your December 18th meeting. Agenda to update the board on Hurricane Michael recovery efforts. Present the end of the calendar year financial report discuss the new building project and future Weems and healthcare management options. Mr. Cannington and I are scheduled to meet with Mr. Mark O'Brien from Tallahassee Memorial Hospital on Friday, December 7th to discuss TMH's role in Franklin County's future healthcare system and services. Mr. Cannington is available to meet with each of you to discuss any questions or ideas you may want researched prior to that December, it shouldn't be 28th, December 18th meeting. Sorry for the typo, Commissioners.
Yeah.
Item number 8. Third time might be a charm. Inform the board that the Carabel Bear Kit installation event that was scheduled for November 17th was changed to December 4th due to some communication issues. Mrs. Whitney Barfield will be coordinating this event. That'll be from 8:30 to 12 p.m. located at the pavilion, which is located next to the Carabel Fire Station. Residents are asked to bring their residential trash receptacles to the pavilion so that county and staff and FWC staff can assist with the installation and explain the proper use of the bear resistance kits. This isn't for commercial, this is strictly for residential. I think I have one more thing, a couple of things. Commissioner, so while we're talking about Lombardi today, I had to check. They've actually started working there. They've redone drywall and do some other things. I will get a full update for the next meeting as to what they've done and what the new date is for completion at Lombardi's. So I'll have that on my report,
Okay.
18th report. And you should have gotten it in the mail today. This is the 2019 FAC calendar. And yes, the cover picture is one submitted from a resident in Franklin County. That is St. George Island Lighthouse.
That's good.
Yeah,
Look good.
very good thing. And so, with that ends my report.
I have something for Michael.
Go ahead.
Michael, a while back, we talked about going out for engineering services. Has that ever even begun?
No, sir,
I'd like to make a motion, we stay with Dewberry. I think they've done a good job for this county. They've done a lot of stuff for free, as was reiterated by Alan and yourself a while ago with Alligator Point Road and other things. I want to stick with Dewberry, and I'm gonna make a motion that we do that.
Got a
I'll
motion
second.
on- Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Master. Any discussion? Yeah, I think it'd be nice to stay with them too. I mean, the people been here, they done a lot of, they've been, went all out their way to help us. All down through the years, I've been here 14 years and that. They done a lot of work and they didn't ask about no money and everything else. So I think it'll be a good thing. Any more discussion?
Commissioner Laughlin, on top of their exemplary help and everything they do, I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves, Franklin County doesn't have a ton of projects going on.
Right.
So
They don't.
they're doing just fine.
You're right about that. You ain't got enough to have to. Ready for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Anything, okay, you through, Michael? Keep up the good work. All right. We got to have a public hearing.
We got a public hearing.
Man. Should have probably been 10:30.
Well, we already blew past.
Oh, yeah, we blew past that anyway, so yeah.
Well, can we have it now, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
You
this is.
just can't have it any earlier, but you can certainly have it later.
Okay. I'm sorry, I looked over.
That's all right.
This is a public hearing on the comprehensive plan amendment.
Yes, sir. This is what this is. You do this annually. You usually do it after you've closed out your fiscal year, so you have an idea, your staff has an idea of what you want to budget for the next fiscal year. This is sort of a wish list. So this is the county ordinance that we adopt. We adopt it, one, because the state law says we have to do it. Two, because there are occasions when when we get points in grant applications, because they sometimes ask, is it in your 5-year work schedule? And so if it's on this list, then we get points for that. But this is not a list as if we are going to do all these things at any particular order. We have them as scheduled as, the ones that are really scheduled are the ones that we know we have funding for. And you can go through that list on the Exhibit A, and you see that schedule is based upon the funding source itself, not our own plans. This is a public hearing. You can add items if you want to. You could delete items here. If you say, no, we're not going to do that anymore, we can take it off. We generally only amend this thing once a year, but if in fact something comes up in the middle of the year, this is a county ordinance. You can amend this anytime you want. So don't feel like this is a one-time opportunity where you better do it now or forever hold your peace. This can be done anytime. We just do it at the end of the year. And generally, we've only had to do it once a year because there aren't that many changes, but it could be changed again if you all if we have a need to. So I won't read all the projects out to you. They're on that Exhibit A. This is a list of things that your staff knows are in the works or we have talked about in the past. But if you want to add something now, we'll add it and adopt it.
Mr.
Pleasure
Chairman,
of the board.
I'll ask a question. Alan, do you have to have a dollar figure to attach to something to add it?
We always do because, and in fact, you and I talked earlier about doing a stormwater plan.
Yep.
Well, and Mark corrected me on something. A stormwater plan is not a capital improvement, so we need to say stormwater improvements and we can put a number. You can say $5 million. You say whatever number you want. I mean, the number isn't inconsequential.
Okay.
All
I
right.
would like to see something added with that for St. George Island with
Okay.
stormwater. If we can list it as improvements.
Okay, stormwater improvements, and it would go under transportation because the stormwater improvements would be related to the road network.
Right, and it might just help us somewhere like you're saying, in
Yeah.
grant funding and getting points for an award.
And I made up the number $5 million, but we can pick whatever number you want. $5 million is it?
All right, this is a public hearing. Any public comment? You want to talk? Go ahead.
My name is Mike O'Connell. I'm the incoming president of the St. George Island Civic Club, and we met with Ricky Jones, we met with Alan on the SGI 2025, which is stormwater, roads, sidewalks, beautification over on the island, several other projects. We're going to probably try to work with Alan on restore money for most of them, and other federal and state agencies that have grants for this. But the stormwater is the most important thing. So I would appreciate your consideration of that. Thank you.
Okay. Any more public comments? Any more public comments? Okay, pleasure of the board.
So move.
I assume with the addition of a stormwater project
Yes.
for St. George Island.
Do we need, okay, I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Jones. Discussion. Or is that the only one we want to add? Any more adding?
Again, you can add them later or yeah.
Okay. All right, ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous.
Okay, we'll get you to sign it.
Okay. That you do?
That's it.
Keep up the good work. All right, next on the agenda will be Mr. Schuler.
Mr. Chairman, I do not have a report or action items for the board, but I am here to answer any questions that the board may have for me.
All right.
Michael, I was just wondering about the letter you sent to us last week relative to the Island View Park. Did I understand then that Island View, prior to Hurricane Michael, was turned over to operations to the county prior to the hurricane?
It was in the process, Commissioner Bolt. There had been essentially substantial completion of the project. The board had looked at and reviewed an acceptance agreement that the Trust for Public Lands had sent down to us. Literally, the hurricane hit in the middle of finalizing and signing that agreement. Mr. Pierce actually has been, I saw him stand up, but I believe, in my opinion, that we have done all that we can do on that park. There's no money left with the Trust for Public Lands for them to do much more than put up a safety fencing to protect the public from that damaged park. And we are in the future going to be responsible with moving forward, trying to find funding to repair the damages that were done, because our partner, the Trust for Public Lands, has told Alan and myself that they simply don't have any more funds available for us. I'm sure they've worked with us so well in the past that if they could help us and they had funding, that they would, but they're just out of money for this project.
And there wasn't any insurance available in that?
A slight amount of insurance, but Mr. Pierce has been dealing with the insurance claim more than I do.
But that will be another FEMA PW, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
via FEMA PW.
This is the things I was talking about earlier. We don't wanna miss any opportunity.
That's right.
Because we don't have funding for these types of things, and if it was damaged and owned by the public and damaged during the hurricane, and we're entitled to it, we just don't wanna miss these things.
That's right.
Commissioner Brown, to give you an update, so yesterday afternoon, Doug Hadaway came down. He's our project manager for Trust Republic Lands. He met with myself and with Mark Carrington, and now on the phone, Peter Fodor, who's the Trust Republic Land attorney, and also they had another person on the phone, their contract manager for the project. Because what I had asked for is a copy of their contract documents, so that when we get ready to make PW right, we'll just use their documents and get all the specs and just go from there. Well, they didn't want to release the documents to us immediately, and there's some legal decisions, and you can call Mr. Foto and talk
Not
to
aware
him.
of any of this.
I'm aware. I know you're not. Right. But they internally are concerned that if the park isn't completely renovated to the standards of their original contract documents, they were worried there might be some liability to them. As an example, and the most important example that they gave us was the piers themselves. If they want someone to go out there and do a geotechnical assessment of those piers to make sure they weren't pulled up and damaged, and so that somehow they fail prematurely, and then we blame them because of the design. So there's some resistance about giving those documents over to us right now. Now they're looking at that, and in fact, what Mr. Hadaway is going to go back to DEP and see if there's some money to do a complete engineering assessment of the facility, and then give us a report for the damages done by a qualified engineer based upon their construction documents, and they would use that as a basis for FEMA reimbursement. And so that's sort of where we're at now, is seeing if they'll assist us with a very professional assessment. Because what happens when you write a PW, you come down, you do your best estimate at the time, but FEMA wants, what's the dollar amount? They want to know what the damage is. And if we say, well, we're not really sure about the pier out there, it may or may not be damaged, FEMA isn't going to write a variable in there. They're going to say, well, is it or is it not damaged? We're here to write a PW and here to sign it, and we want to know what the damage is. So we're trying to get that assessment done before we write the PW on that. I did ask Doug to consider one thing, because if in fact we have to wait for everything to be finished before that park is open, it could be closed, and I'm using an arbitrary number, it could be a year. And it's a tragedy to have that park open for 6 weeks, be damaged by a hurricane, and then be closed for an extended period of time because we don't have the money to fix it. So I asked them to look at it, and it really is, and it's something that ultimately will come down to you all. Can we cut the park in half, essentially? Can you give us the documents, TPL, for us to repair the upland structure? So the parking lot can be reopened, the pavilion can be open, you can sit out there and look at the sunset, you can look at the water, you can even launch a kayak from the land, but the piers be closed, because the piers are where the liability is. The piers, are they stable, are they secure? But that's the issue, and I hate to have that chain link fence up along the highway for a long period of time when we can, in fact, for a little bit of money, get the parking lot rebuilt. So that's something that I mentioned to Doug about, is can we split the project in 2 phases and get the construction documents for the and the land side where the liability is not that great, and let's get that started, because we might do that with any kind of labor for all I know. We might be able to put the brick papers down and get something going to get the park open. So I just say that to you all now.
Mr. Chairman, if I can clarify, I just want to make sure. Did I hear you say that TPL is going to pay for the damage assessment for our use?
They are looking at getting engineering work, yes, from DEP, yes.
But they haven't committed to that, or they're just looking
They have
at
not
whether
committed
they
to that.
can?
They have not committed to that. They're looking at that.
Well, there's always 2 issues with the contract documents. One is the liability issue that's been raised, and of course the other is, like any architect, or think of it like an architect's plan. They don't like their plans to be reused without them getting another fee out of it.
Yeah, they didn't.
That's part of what's going on too.
Yeah, they didn't raise that, but I'm not saying that isn't behind the scenes.
So is that not a reimbursable expense if we have to hire somebody to assess those piers and all? I mean, I know we're gonna be out of pocket more money, but
It might be.
allowable expense.
It might be. That's where we
If they
have
want a
to.
number, then they're gonna have to help us pay somebody to get them a number. I mean, but I understand we'll be out of pocket. And
Right,
Lord knows
Commissioner-
How long that'll be.
Right, I will say, I mean, in most cases, we don't have a feasibility study done to get damage assessment. Usually we just give a number and we work with the engineers and figure it out. On Alligator Point, in fact, 20 years ago, we did get money from FEMA to do a feasibility study. That was 20 years ago, and the feasibility said relocate the road. So there are occasions when the damage and the infrastructure is so significant that they do give you money. But oftentimes they're like, okay, it's a park, what's the problem? Let's write it up right now. So I don't want to. you know.
Okay.
It sort of depends on how important they see the project.
Well, if you had to give them a number, give them one that's too high.
Well, we'll work on
Don't
that.
give them one that's too low.
Yeah.
We can always send money back, but I don't wanna have to beg for no more.
Well, if we get the damage assessment for the entire park, then we can pick and choose whether to repair the uplands in phase one and then something else in
That's
phase
true,
two,
that's
correct?
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's in our control,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'd say let's get the complete assessment and decide where to go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. Should be right about it, yeah.
That's why I say, you know, it's little stuff. They act like you don't supposed to put that on the paper, but it's like William was saying, a stop sign $100-something away. It's stop signs all over the county down. And that add up. Not only stop sign, you got street sign, you got your workers got to go there and all that time, that costs some money. You in the park, you got them little kids, that little playground they got. That weather was 100-something miles an hour. It blowed the paint off it. It blistered the paint or something. Okay, right now it look all right. But when people start coming in, the first thing they go, what you got that old ugly thing there for? So you got to count all that stuff and make it right. But anyway,
Yeah. I mean, there's
We
gonna be,
gon-
yes. I mean, I'll
we-
say, I'm sorry.
we gonna weather the storm. We coming back. We gonna do it right, and it's gonna look better.
Yeah, I mean, this is a challenge to the system, Commissioner. We are on the edge of the destruction area, as you all know that. And FEMA has got to make some decisions, and the Congress has to approve this, which has not happened yet, about, how all this is gonna be funded. And so, I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar problem for the United States of America, and we are going to see how it gets dealt with over the next few months, because the emergency appropriation for FEMA for the storm has not been done yet. So there may be some issues that come out of this just because of the severity of the storm. I don't know, we don't know yet.
Well, it was a category 5. They saying it's 4. It was a 5. I mean,
And you got the fires in California, you got the hurricanes in Florida, but they need to take care of the people of the United States.
yeah.
And quit sending all this money overseas when you ain't even taking care of your people at home. The people that's paying the taxes.
Yeah.
To send the money overseas. They need to take care of these people. I mean, it ain't hard to figure out.
I agree. We're not deciding it here, but I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that don't make no sense.
All right. You through?
Yes, sir.
All right, next, commissioner comments. I got one on, I'm gonna say it, I know it's kinda early, but I wanna wish everybody in the county a Merry Christmas, 'cause by the time they air 2 times, we come back the next time, the thing it'll be after Christmas, so I'm saying it now. And a Happy New Year. We went through a storm this year, but we gonna weather it and we gonna be all right. Anybody else? All right, that means the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.